Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Barndo Show. So today we're going to talk about how we treat you and what it's like to have a client experience inside the Barndo Co. And it's going to be really unique because we got some special people both inside of our company and past clients to talk you through the journey. If you're thinking about this and you're just wondering, I wonder what to expect as a client, this is the episode for you. And so today you're going to hear from Billy Mitchell, and he's going to talk about client satisfaction from the builder's point of view. Billy is inside of our company in a management position in the production side. You're also going to hear from Jordan and Haley, who are two staples in our organization, and they're going to talk about client satisfaction throughout the entire Barndo process and what that looks like and the journey that you're going to take inside the Barndo Co. And then you're going to hear directly from a client perspective, and you have two ways of doing that with Danny Godfrey talking about how to prepare to build for the very first time, and he's a past client of ours that has an incredible Barndo that you've probably seen, and he's got a great perspective on that. And then lastly, you're going to hear from the Holscher family, who was one of the first builds that we did down in the Conway market, and they're going to talk to you about how to vet builders and how they ultimately chose us and decided to move forward with the Barndo Co. And you get to hear it straight from their mouths, guys. So without further ado, let's jump right in. If a homeowner was sitting here considering this now, based on your experience of building with other builders and things like that, what we do has its own set of hurdles, obstacles, challenges by comparison to a lot of things. Because, I mean, we sometimes have to go to war even at the municipality level,
right,
just to get clearance, to get the permits established, because there's so many people in the industry that have done subpar work or, did something to where the county's a little bit hesitant, and they want to really review, deep dive on what we're submitting.
Right.
But, when we come in and we do that, like if a homeowner was watching this right now and they had an opportunity to not talk to the owner of the company or talk to someone in sales, but to talk to someone who manages the jobs, what would you tell them to prepare them for the experience of building with Barndo Co?
First, the biggest thing that I see a lot of, just doing this is everybody's thinking we're going to build it in this exact amount of time. Don't set yourself up for that failure, because you're going to sit there and say, I'm homeless. And we don't want you to feel that way. So always create a buffer. Never let, your emotions get so involved that I've got to be in here and you get everything lined up. Don't line anything up until you know that things are in play. If you do that, you're just hurting yourself, and it puts a lot of pressure on the builder. So, do your homework. Really kind of know the aspect of the build. Ask as many questions as possible at the beginning of the build, like what are some of the hurdles that we may encounter. So if you do those, I think that it will relieve a lot of the end pressure that a lot of people find themselves at. So.
Okay. What would you say is something that you see come up over and over and over again from a client experience that maybe is just an expectation that doesn't match the experience?
The details. It's really like there's just like a lot of it's the details right now. And as far as the paperwork and everything, we're getting better and better and better. But just the not enough questions are asked on either side. The simple as like grout color. And we're like, okay, what color? And then they're like, well, that's not what I envisioned. We don't know what you envisioned unless we get it from you. Yeah. So those kind of things. So it's really the details.
Yeah. So. The devil's in the details.
Right.
So. For sure. For sure. When you're building this. Well, okay. So let me ask you this. What would you say is your favorite part of your day on any given day?
Oh, gosh. I love building. So, not that I'm not a builder or a framer or anything, but I love the whole process. I don't really have, honestly, like you all talked about my chart. I love looking at that and saying, okay, this is where I'm at. And then sometimes when I don't see things move, I'm like, is it doing anything? So I dive into myself on that, like, okay, how can I push the guys to do a little better? But really where I love communication, I love talking to, like, I'll reach out to the PMs just to say, hey, how are we looking? I had one, I called today and he mentioned something to me. I called up and followed up with him, and just to make sure he's doing okay. We have another one that's going through some issues as well, trying to make sure I cover him while he's out there. But just a little bit of everything, really. I love coming in and doing this. So,
well, my favorite thing is you got a nickname.
Oh, yeah.
You started here, and you are
The warden.
The warden.
Yeah.
Right?
So
you hold everybody fiercely accountable. Now,
but you got to do it the right way. You can't just
for
be
sure.
You can't just be an ass, or I'm sorry, you can't be a butthole the entire time. So I mean, you have to build your guys. You can't just break them down. So
yeah. No, well, you came in. I remember, we had all this stuff going, and like when we hired you, the goal was to clean it up, get it tighter, get it more dialed in, and you were like, I can deliver this. And day 2, you rolled out like this procedure of checklists and stuff. And I remember even our director of finance, he had to go in the system and do some checks or something.
Oh, yeah.
And you dropped a message in and were like, I don't see these check boxes.
Right.
He was like, he's even holding me accountable.
Oh, I told Nick.
Like,
That's what I told Nick. I said, I'm going after Nate. I'm going after Nate. Sorry, Nate. So,
yeah. I love
mean,
it.
he's doing his part and everything, but I just need the schedule. I mean, the schedule's got to be clean.
Yeah,
and
well,
that's where I pushed.
Well,
so.
it's both ways, right? So, like, as much as everyone depends on production is depending on sales and depending on finance and procurement, and all these things have to work in harmony. Right. And so, as you scale and as you grow, the tendency is that those people get further and further away, and the communication gets less and less.
Right.
And it's quite the opposite for that. It's almost like the bigger we've gotten, the better communication has gotten. And so people have like leaned in and gotten even better at scheduling and forecasting and doing all these things. And so we've seen kind of the opposite, effect, but it might have been, we just started at such a bad place.
Well, I think well, the communication, I think, you tapped onto something there. The communication that we have this Slack. I mean, our Slack, I mean, it's like, it's not just production. It's not just sales. I mean, we are so intermingled when it comes to that you don't always see that. I mean, it's usually sales or us, and yes, we're two different things, but because of the way, I mean, we all text at night. I mean, let's be honest. Yeah. We're sitting there saying, and trying to get the next day ready or just finish up the day or whatever. But the communication that we have between both parties is great. Yep. So, I mean, that is a huge, because you don't always see that. So that is huge.
Yep. So let's answer this. A lot of times there is and not so much now because they're not really dealing with Ross and I on a daily basis, right. But sometimes people feel like I need to talk to TJ now.
Right.
And I try to tell them in the kindest way possible, I'm the last person you want to talk to because chances are I will have to go back in and talk to you to even get to the next step because there's so many pieces to make sure that the right person is receiving that information. Like, talk a little bit like that. So, like, a client needs to get in touch with someone. Why would it make more sense for them in the production side of things to have that land on you even before a Nick or me or Ross or anyone? Like, your ability to solve that problem. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, because I'm on the site. I mean, they're trying to see it from afar. So really, you first start off with your PMs and see if you can come up with a solution. If he doesn't have a solution, then have him reach out to me, and I can come out there and take a look. Sometimes it's just an easy solution that we can fix on the spot. Sometimes we have to go back to the drawing board a little bit. So it really kind of needs to go up the ladder. And then at the top they're dealing with processes and all that kind of stuff. We're dealing with, problems on hand. And that's where it needs to stay lower than higher.
Yeah, well, and 9 times out of 10, even when that information comes back into you, it ends up in front of us at some level.
Right.
And we may have some kind of influence in that decision, but it's easier when it's came through you and you had a way to frame it up, take it through our SOP to get it to the table so that everyone that needs to be involved can look at it,
right,
and make an educated decision on something and roll out a solution.
It's like if me going over to sales and saying, "Hey, I'm going to do this." I mean, I have no clue what I'm talking about over there. That's not what I do. So it's really, and we're talking about the framing, we're talking about the build. Well, that's where we are out there with those customers, and that's why it's super important for them to just stay down there with us. And if we need bigger decisions, like you said, we come to you guys for those. Like, okay, this is what we can do. This is what we're capable of doing at a different level. I mean, this is more of the finance side of it, or like you said, SOPs and everything. But what we can do out in the field, we can usually resolve most of those issues out there. So,
talk a little bit for me about like the gap between sales to production, because some people get like a little bit lost in that, because when you're in that sales side, right, everything's a dream, right? I'm fantasizing about my Barndo, like, you're showing your little pin board, your Pinterest board to everybody. You got all this stuff, and like you're working with the design team and they're drawing it, and then you get that email and you're like, oh, it's the one, and like all this stuff is just kind of like building and building and building. And then you sign and you move over to production, and like the objective is different, right? Sales is like, how can I get you as much of your dream as possible within the budget that you're, able to spend or want to spend. And it, you kind of go from like watercolor to permanent marker, and so, a lot of people I feel like go into the construction side and they're just like, where did the magic go? Because now it's just, there's machinery out there. They're pushing up dirt. Job sites are dirty. Like just your home does not look beautiful until the final moments, right? And if there's ever a time where we field more phone calls from people, it's during construction, and we're just like, your home is still in construction. Like, oh, yeah, no, I understand everything you're saying. It's still in construction. It's not going to look like a finished masterpiece until it's a finished masterpiece. But that bridge between the two, I'm excited about that. So, like, what are you guys doing for clients to kind of help bridge them into that RSB moment and then into that breaking ground part of the build to where this dream starts becoming reality? Because at the end of the day, that's what everything's for, right? Like turning impossible dreams into possible realities. That takes dirty boots. That takes some rough dudes that, build these things for a living that aren't really there. They're looking at the paper and they're building that, So do a little build up there, like how you envision this, like helping to, one, create better expectations for clients, but then how does that then improve their experience overall?
I think the first thing to realize is our onboarding process is about 60 to 90 days, whereas the build process can take up to 12 months. So there's a big difference in time frame for both of those processes. Something that we're doing to help bridge that gap and that experience is we, number one, are working with the client from the start, and then we're helping do the handoff from the sales agent to our PM and kind of filling in some of those areas. Our project managers are out in the field a lot. They don't always have access to internet service, their phone. You might not be able to get in contact with them. And so we're that second set of someone that you can actually call. We're in the office and say, hey, I'm trying to get a hold of this person. And we can kind of bridge that gap to make those things happen if there are questions. And the other aspect is in construction, there are times where I feel like to the client, it seems like nothing's happening because you don't see them out there every single day, when in reality, there are things happening. They're just behind the scenes, or we're waiting on X, Y, and Z to move forward with the next step of the process. And so not everything, you're involved in a lot of the onboarding process, whereas with construction, you get to see in Builder Trend what your schedule is like, but it's just a little bit of a slower process. So we're here to kind of set those nerves at ease, be there to listen to you, and to kind of, if you have something you want to vent about, be there so you can vent to us and give you more of that perspective of what's actually happening.
I love it. I love it. And if you guys are listening, I hope that you hear, like, we are listening. If there's, the number one thing is communication. And I think that's a natural thing for people, is like you're either over communicated or you're under communicated. You're never communicated enough, right? Like the thing is, like, when you want to be heard. And so if you feel like you can't be heard, then it creates frustration. And so, like that's like a psychological side of this build, and something that we put a lot of value in it. Like, we don't want to just build your home and be done. We want you to be a raving fan when we're done. And that can't happen if you feel like you can't communicate with someone or you can't talk to someone, and kind of helping identifying those roles, because your project manager is not just building your house. He's running 8 to 10 houses. And the chances are, because we're not a tract home builder, those 8 to 10 houses are not on the same street. He may have an hour or 90 minutes of windshield time in between projects, and he's managing all of those, and he's trying to handle all of those situations. And so, like, when you have that moment on your project where you feel like, oh my God, somebody needs to know this, he probably knows, but he's done it 150 times. And so to him, it's like, I know how this will get fixed. And so sometimes, like, you get in that, like, the best builders aren't thinking about how like you're processing this job site. They're thinking about, I got to get this thing done. I got to get them moved in, and I got to make sure it's done on time, and I got to make sure that it's done on budget. And they're battling with material deliveries, subcontractor labor. You know, you can't prohibit things from happening. Like, you know, we've had builds where, you know, somebody drove off the road and drove through their home 30 days before they're supposed to move in it. And now 6 months later, we had to basically tear down half the house and rebuild the whole thing and do everything. And now they're moving into their home. But like, that's an unexpected caveat, right? That's extreme conditions. But, you know, you got a plumber and his kid's sick. He's a human too. Like, something's going to happen that's going to delay something, throw that schedule off. And that project manager is in the background because Billy, you know, the warden, you guys go back and watch Billy's episode. Like, he's one of our area managers. He is holding them so fiercely accountable to that schedule. Like, is the schedule updated? Is this on time? Is this right? They're working on that aspect. Like, they have one goal, and that goal is to get the house done on time, on budget. And that's it. Your sales agent has one goal: to get you your dream home on paper that you can afford, so that you'd be willing to move forward and get this thing going. And so they've got a set of hurdles that they're working with too. It's more emotional then, and then it becomes more like, you know, just real time tedious stuff. And then you have all the emotions that go into the fact that, like, you're living in a smaller space or you're in a travel trailer or something, you know, and then God forbid the holidays come, and like, there's a lot of tension there. So again, creating that relief valve to where they have someone they can reach out to who can communicate with them. You know, the little details that maybe don't even have anything to do with construction, right? You don't have to be a master builder. You just have to be a people person. But the cool thing is, like, your home is a showstopper. So I remember you found the plan, brought it to me, and said, "This is what I want to build."
My wife found it.
Yeah, your wife found it. We got to give her the credit.
That's true, though. She did. Yeah. So we found a plan. I was like, man, this is different, right?
Yeah.
It gave me what I wanted, the huge garage. You know, I tell people I built a house around my vault room because that's my favorite room. But the huge garage, I mean, it's just an eye catcher. So we don't even park cars in there. Yeah. We park toys, and it's like an extension of the house. I got a pool table in there. I got tables set up. So we have people come over. We do little different events. And actually, I was honored to have my employees come over for a Christmas party.
I saw pictures of that.
Man, it was awesome. That's what we celebrate. So I'm going to try to do that every year now.
That's so awesome.
Just giving it back to them a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I remember that. So we get asked all the time because people get hung up on, like, our process. And so, like, you brought me a plan, and you had purchased a plan, came in, and I told you the same thing I tell everybody else. Hey, my guys still need to go in and create some plans around this so that we can get post placement. We can look at all the details and get everything kind of nuanced in there. But you ended up with the home you wanted. It's just a little bit of a different process to make sure that once we hit construction stage, things went as smooth as they can go. Because, you know, we learned, you know, just going gung ho. Yeah, we'll build that. Let's get started. And then we run into stuff on the field, and it's a trickle down effect. So, it was really fun. And the plan that you have is, you know, one of the most viral we've ever posted when we finish your home. So it's a beautiful home.
Yeah, thank you.
And just really, really excited about it. And the cool thing is, like, like, it's real barndominium. You know what I mean? Like, you've got as much or almost as much garage space as you've got house, and it's just it's a super cool plan. And but the fun part was, like, we had such a great experience, like, consumer, you know, experience with you. Like, again, I know there was hurdles, and I know we had to have conversations around it. And I tell everybody that comes into our business, this is an 80-20 experience. 80% of this is going to be phenomenal. 20% of it you're going to hate, you know? And so I try to tell people, like, hey, when we encounter that, just stick it in your 20. You know that you're going to have it. So let's get it on the front end and know that 20% is going to be terrible. And so it's just going to happen. But we had so much fun building it, and, like, we even went and shot a podcast in your home while it was in construction. And I remember calling you up being like, hey, we're going to come out and shoot this thing. And you're like, yeah, come on out. And then it torrential downpoured.
Yep.
And the audio was so bad we couldn't even release it afterwards. So it was like it was just a fun experience. But we had a great time out there hanging out with you guys, and like I say, as far as and I wish everybody could have an expectation of what it's like to build a home. And like you said, you never built a home, but you're in business, and so you have some context of like things can go wrong. So like, how would you? Like what words of wisdom would you give someone right now who's sitting on the fence, or maybe they just onboarded or they're getting started and they've got these big expectations of like, what would you tell them as far as what to expect and how they can prepare themselves and prepare their wives or vice versa? You know,
Well, the biggest thing I can tell everybody, it's a construction site. Okay. I think I got a little frustrated sometimes because I like stuff to be clean and neat. But it's a construction site, so I had to wrap my head around that. Okay, we're going to walk in here and check out the house. We got to step over things. We're going to have to, right? Another thing, get ready to spend more than you thought you was going to spend.
Yep.
You know, you want advice from me about that? I've done a lot of stuff on my own. You know, I run 200 yards of water line. I paid for the carport or the concrete outside the carport. Just a lot of different stuff that even the furniture, even doing the blinds. You know, the window treatment. You think blinds are cheap? No. Yeah. You start putting them in these custom homes, get ready, somebody's got to build them, and they're not cheap. And two, when you're setting up your house, think about everything, where you might need outlets. Because I go back and I think, God, man, I should have put outlets on the side over here or water over here. But that's okay. You know, I didn't, but now that's the stuff. If I ever done it again, yep, there would be an outlet in every square feet of the house because I got stuff to plug in. But just little things, just the unexpected. It's going to happen. Yep. Weather's going to happen. You can't control that, right? The contractors are going to tear stuff up, but that's okay. There's other contractors that come back and fix it. Yep. You know, I learned that. I'm thinking the house is painted. This guy just rammed a ladder through the sheetrock, you know. But that's just life on life. That stuff is going to happen. It doesn't matter because guess what? It's going to be fixed. You know, I promise you, I went through all that, and these guys took great care of me. They fixed everything.
Because we were talking right before this started. Like, I had the first conversation with you guys, and I was actually in Myrtle Beach, and you know, we were not building in the area, but I was like, we're definitely going to, you know, like, and so it's kind of funny that I thought about that, like when I was pulling, I was like, I'm pretty confident that I had the first conversation with you.
You did.
And yeah.
So in the beginning of our research online, that's how I found you. You know, just reading through everything. And I was like, well, let me just call them and find out, you know. So I called, and I think at the time, you guys were still a very small company. Yeah. Probably just you and Ross. Yeah. Maybe one or two other employees. But I think I left a message or I sent an email, and you gave me a call. And you walked me through the process. I think you spent about 20 minutes on the phone with me. And after we got off the phone, I was like, I feel good about this. I feel good about TJ. I feel good about the Barndo Co. So I talked to Sean about it. And we kind of ventured into the partnership then. Yeah. Early on, 2 years ago.
The dating relationship.
Yeah.
Talking about the dating.
Well, and so everyone, there's uncertainty there, right? Because you have a vision, and then you got to find someone who's capable of making it reality, and that isn't always quick. And so, you know, we had a conversation. I kind of walked through what the onboarding process looks like, and then you guys had some homework here that you're trying to solve and like figure out what your timeline's going to look like. And then when you came back, I was no longer in sales, and I think you guys got partnered with Olivia,
We did.
who's a great. So that,
Wonderful.
yeah, Olivia's phenomenal, and she's been on the show before, so you can go back and find Olivia's episode. But Olivia is a phenomenal sales agent. Really understands the process. She was one of the first ones that we hired. Her and Shannon been here the longest of anybody. But you kind of came back, and so talk through that a little bit, because one of the things that we stand on, and whether it's a wise business thing or not, is choose us, don't just use us. There's tons of options, and we aren't the best builder for everyone, and every client's not the best client for us. And so we talk about that, like, hey, as a 2-year window, what was some of the conversations that went on? What were some of the things? What other like alternatives did you explore? And then how did we end up here?
So to kind of go back just a second, you know, Andrea was she was on board from day one. And it was me. It's my fault. I'm sorry. I was a skeptic. And it was kind of, I'm sitting here thinking, we're in Conway, South Carolina. How are we going to pull this off? And you were in the fuse got lit stage. And so you guys were growing and rocking and rolling. And we were kind of like, how are we going to do this? And so we went through the process, and it was great. And Jeff was great, and we ended up designing a massive barndominium.
Carried away.
Yeah.
I think it's
Very carried away.
it's out there somewhere. Maybe the basswood.
Yes, the basswood plant.
If anyone builds one, we'd love to see it in real life. But the design process was great because it's a number. Like you can incorporate design elements and different modifications, but it all is tied to a number. And I don't think we really wanted to buy into that. And so we were like, we're hammering down through this design process, and Jeff, he knocked it out. It was awesome. But we got done and was like, well, that doesn't really work. It looks great, but
Doesn't really work.
it didn't really fit our mold. So we pulled back, and as probably everyone does, is like, there's got to be a way. And so we kicked the tires on a bunch of different options. And there's a lot of folks out there willing to take advantage of people that are kind of engaging in that process that don't really have a good idea of what they're getting into. There's plenty of people that'll drop metal off at the the highway out here and walk away, and then what do you do with it?
Yeah.
And finding a way to pull all those concepts and pieces together is just, an individual I don't think understands the breadth of which the energy that it'll take to do that. And that's we explored those options, and we explored going back to a traditional thing. And I think at the end of the day, the concept was, we clicked on Barndo Co. for a reason. I think it was the concept. We wanted the barndominium. We wanted to be different. We kind of had stepped out of the mold. And so we kind of went full circle and said, these are the folks that can pull this off from start to finish and bring all those elements together and be able to kind of tie it all up and really get us to the finish line. I think that's where we came back to, and it was full circle. It was a process that I think was very helpful because at the end of the day, we know that we looked at a bunch of different options, and
We explored every option.
This is the option that will get you from A to B, and I don't think there's another one out there. And you talk about the going from a small company, you and Ross, to now where you are, and it's a brand. I think that whole build concept has sort of evolved into that brand is out there, and folks can come and look at it and put your hands on it. And the more places you go in East Tennessee and Somerville and in North Carolina, everyone's getting an opportunity to see that evolution. And I think in our 2-year relationship,
Right.
it's grown into that, and it's actually been kind of fun to see. So when we came back, like, oh, you got marketing people? Like, we didn't have any of that. So
The whole team.
we kind of in our evolution process, we got to see full circle that growth and how fun it was to we knew the concept was there, and we knew that the ability to pull it off, the barndominium concept, was there with y'all the whole time. It's just a matter of us working through the process.
Figuring things out.
Well, the good thing is the delay gave you a better experience.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple things that go into that. One is we set out in the beginning and to build barndos, and that was it. That was the mission, build barndominiums. And we were only doing cash because we couldn't figure out how to do financing at the time. So when we started, we were only marketing to cash consumers, and most of those cash consumers were extremely custom, and like they're designing houses that you would never sell again. And there was a piece of me that was like, there's too much freedom. There's too many options. And a larger pool of people have that experience, right? Like, let's design our dream. And then you're like, ooh, And so that happened over and over and over again. So we're like, okay, well, we need to put boundaries up. Like, how do we prevent people from getting here? And so we put a new level of boundary in, and we communicated that boundary. And Jeff does a phenomenal job, Jeff Fry. And he's still with us. He's been with us for the last couple years, and he's actually getting ready to take a new role in the company with us and like elevate the service even more. But part of that was like just building barndos and then figuring out how to finance them, figuring out how to put plans together that would meet people's needs, that could then be customized to meet your wants. And so we kind of shifted to more of a semi-custom option. We still do customs. We still design barns all day, every day. But we've gotten really, really good at the process. And so but when we went from like, hey, we're just going to build Barndos, 2 guys in a truck, to we're going to build a brand that takes us to the next level, it started with core values. And the first one we dropped was we want to be the best. And part of that experience of being the best is admitting that you're not in a certain area. And so we had to take a deep look at like, where are we not the best? Let's put all of our effort and emphasis in that area. And it's not fun. It's not the fun stuff. We've always built great buildings. How do you become the best communicator? How do you become the best experience? How do you become the best design? How do you become the best at balancing budget and design? How do you become the best at balancing budget, design, emotions, and different land every single time? Like, you're building this beautiful barn, and we've built a similar plan numerous times. But every time it's on a different piece of land with different soil composition, with different entrance, with different colors, different selections inside. So they're all custom, but how you do that the best? And so we really sought out to do that. And you guys have kind of been around long enough to see that evolution of, 2 guys in a truck to a team of 50 plus people in multiple states. And at the end of the day, it's how do we deliver the best experience possible for people? And I don't feel like we're there yet. We're probably the best, but we're not where I want to see us be. And so we're constantly changing the process. We're constantly improving the process. And it's fun, it's rewarding to see something like this happen where there was a little bit of like, I don't know if I'm bought into this, and I would be the same. And so I always approach everything from that perspective of, hey, me too. I would be a skeptic. And so, it's just fun. And now here we are, and we're literally like 15 minutes from a place that we just, put under contract to build out a showroom and design center in your backyard. So the next people that build here, their level of experience is going to be even better than the experience you had. And you guys are like, we're Raven fans, Yeah. So it's just a commitment to always getting better. And we've got massive construction going on.
We're on that
So,
timeline.
yeah. This is live action, guys. But
you mentioned one of the things that makes unique, and I think in the custom, what's this called? What it is? It's a custom home or semi-custom home. Everything is commonly cost plus 10. And the thing that makes it unique, and maybe it was one of the things that we didn't quite understand at first, was like, here's the number. Like, this is what it is. And, you manage your pot of money to do the site stuff. And, you gotta, as an individual, as a homeowner or a landowner, you really have to guard that pot of money because, there's things that will come up along the way. But the relief of going to, we're signing everything, this is the number, I know what it is, and I know exactly what I'm getting. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to, Scott calls, hey, this is going up, or now it's this, or the number change. It's so easy that this is it. And I think that makes it unique in the build process. I have, got a friend that's going through the same process, and every little item is, we're negotiating. This is, is that amount really that amount? And you guys just take a different approach. Like, here it is.
Thanks, guys, for tuning in to the Barndo Show podcast. If you're watching on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this content, hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And then be sure to check us out on all of our social media platforms at the Barndo Co. Super simple to find us. And then when you're ready to dive in a little more, maybe look around some of our available floor plan options, or take a look at the gallery of our work, or maybe you're ready to connect with our team and explore what it looks like to build your dream barndominium, you can visit us online at thebarndoco.com.